when we're able to name something we're experiencing, it usually decreases some of the poignancy of it. So if you're able to, even just in your mind, recognize, oh, I'm having a stress response. That's why my brain is starting to freak out and why I'm wanting to like escalate this conversation I'm in. If you can label that for yourself, it's much easier to then acknowledge and be like, no, I don't want to do that right now. Let me work to keep it where it's at. Let me work to stay present here without saying the thing that's going to turn this into just a full-scale fight.
One of the ways I label it oftentimes is perceived threat.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's hitting that threat response, physical threat response in our body. And so for me, reminding myself that, oh yeah, my mind is perceiving this as a physical threat, but it's not a physical threat.
I think once you practice this, like, and you won't be perfect, but when you start to practice it, you can get better at it, and then you can move on to actually being able to navigate these conversations more effectively, where you can say, okay, we obviously come from different perspectives here. And you don't necessarily have to say this out loud. You can just think it. We come from different perspectives and we're both trying to get each other to hear ours.
Mm-hmm.
And when neither of us feel heard, we're both going to make sure the other person still feels unheard.
Well said.
This type of conversation 101 is just, you're not listening to me. You are not hearing what I'm saying. You'll even hear people say that. And so you have to ask yourself the question, like, do I know what they're saying? Do I hear their perspective? And if you don't, am I willing to explore it?
Mm-hmm.
Am I willing to set mine aside for a second and ask them questions and hear where they're coming from? Because honestly, a lot of the time, if we're willing to do that enough, we can usually find common ground.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be in a state of not being aggressive or defensive to invite somebody to open up and actually share their perspective.